Apple products are expensive, like really expensive. But what if I told you there was a way to not only save money on the Apple product you want to purchase, but also not compromise on the Apple product's quality? Well, if that is something that piques your interest, then stay tuned because today is your lucky day. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new to the channel, my name's Dylan, and in today's video, we'll be going over how you can save money when purchasing Apple products in 2021. Of course, do not forget that this is not just for purchasing the MacBook Pro model that I purchased, but also all Apple products. This method can be used to save some dollar and also get a quality product at the same time. We'll be breaking down the amount saved when using this method, as well as take a look at the quality for the product and the packaging that it was delivered in, as well as run some tests on the internals to make sure everything is working correctly and as it should if this product was purchased new. If you find yourself interested after today's video to purchase this exact model of the MacBook Pro in today's video, don't worry, I got you covered with the product link to the exact one that I have in today's video down below for your convenience. You can also use that link to check out other refurbished MacBooks and Apple products in general with that link down below. When looking to purchase a MacBook Pro, I already had honed in on getting the 13-inch model, as I didn't really want the 16-inch or 15-inch models because they were too large and didn't really meet my needs when it came to portability. So that left me with two options here. I was going to get the newest model with the M1 Apple Silicon chipset in it, or go with the 2020 10th gen Intel 13-inch MacBook Pro model. The problem I was having with pulling the trigger on the M1 model of the MacBook Pro wasn't the pricing or the power of this device. It was the fact that it didn't have enough USB-C ports, or it didn't meet what I wanted, which was more than 2 USB-C ports, as well as the compatibility with the software that is out today. It was settled then. I was gonna go with the 2020 10th gen Intel version of the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and instead of paying $1,800 to receive this Apple MacBook Pro new, I wanted to save some money and look into the routes I could go to save a couple $100. This led me to either have to buy it used from someone else using eBay, Mercari, any of those sites that you can buy Apple products used, or go through Apple and use the Apple refurbished program to buy one of these MacBook Pros, or this is where I landed upon the Amazon refurbished side of Amazon. So why did I go with Amazon refurbished? Well, just to make it short and sweet, because I am a Prime member, if something is shipped using Prime, Amazon will back this return. So if I am unhappy with the product that I received, I can send it back, and if the third-party vendor does not want to refund me in any way, Amazon will back that refund and give me back all the money that I spent on the product. But always make sure that you check the ratings if you're going to go with a third-party member that is selling a refurbished product. See how their ratings are in the past 12 months, 3 months, and recently to make sure that you're going to get the product that you want, as well as the quality that you're expecting. So I did my research and found a third-party vendor that was selling this model MacBook Pro for $1,200, which was nearly $600 off of the new MSRP version of the MacBook Pro on Apple's site. $600 in the pocket saved, I was happy. And it was backed by Amazon since it was a Prime shipment. Now let's talk about the quality of the product that I received and the packaging that it came in. So the product's packaging met the standards that I was hoping it would, with the original package that it would ship in if this product was new, as well as the owner's manual, all that good stuff. And it came with the new USB-C cable, which was another thumbs up. But how was the product's quality itself? Like the display, case, keyboard, touch bar? We're going to get into that now and take a look at the external quality of this product. I wanted to start off things with the case quality check. Obviously, this is the first thing that people notice when they buy a MacBook and they pull it out of that product packaging, they see the case. For the quality check of the case and the refurbished MacBook Pro that I received, I was pleasantly surprised to see that there was no cosmetic imperfections whatsoever on the case. When I opened up the laptop, there was also literally no scratches or anything, not on the screen, no fingerprints on the keyboard. This thing looked brand new. Obviously, refurbished means it's to be like new since they refurbished the product, but never before have I seen a refurbished product without any scratches, at least on the case, on the outside of the product. Super happy to see this, and especially when I was doing my first quality check of the MacBook Pro. Apple is known to have some of the best displays on the market, so of course, quality check number 2 was checking the display. This display worked perfectly in terms of adjusting the brightness, the color quality of the display looked great, and there was no imperfections in terms of like dead pixels or anything like that, no cracks on the display, scratches whatsoever. Next on the list for the quality check was the keyboard, and this sums up the whole keyboard, and starting from the top, the touch bar. I wanted to make sure cosmetically there was no issues whatsoever, like scratches, dents, or even cracks, which there was not any of those prevalent on the touch bar itself. And I wanted to make sure also that the function keys that this touch bar has worked correctly, like adjusting the volume or the brightness, and those all worked, and that was good to see. Now let's talk about the actual keyboard itself. This thing is amazing ever since the switch to the mechanical keys, or not mechanical keys, but the switches themselves from the butterfly switches. This keyboard felt great to type on and had no issues whatsoever, no ghosting or anything like that. So that was good to see, and it felt great to use. The trackpad also felt great and all the gestures worked correctly. So we took a look at the external part of this MacBook Pro. So we looked at the display to make sure there wasn't any scratches, the keyboard, the touch bar, trackpad, case, so the cosmetics and all of that. But we want to also look at the internal quality of this MacBook Pro as well. And more importantly, to start things off, before we run any performance tests, is to check the battery health. This is really important when buying a refurbished Apple product, because if it has a high cycle count for the times it's been powered down and then recharged, that is a bad sign, because you're going to have to replace that battery because there may be some swelling or issues with the battery. So to do that, before we get into the performance test, what you can do is come up to the Apple icon, go to About This Mac, and then go to System Report. This is where we can find where the battery cycle count is, as well as the battery health. To do that, you're going to come down to where it says Power, click on that tab, and this is your battery information. And for this MacBook Pro, I can see that there is a cycle count of 35 and the condition is normal. This is good. That means that this is a new battery that they must have put in here when they refurbished this MacBook Pro, because that is really low. And I've actually powered this down and charged it to 100% multiple times in the past week or so. So this is good. That means that this is a healthy MacBook Pro with a healthy battery, and it checks out for my battery cycle count check. And if I didn't see this and I saw a higher number, like in the high hundreds, even the thousands, I'd probably send this MacBook Pro back. So the first performance check we're going to do is on the SSD, and to do that, I'm going to use the Blackmagic software that checks the read and write speed of the SSD inside of this Mac. I'm going to click start right here and let this test run, and it's going to give me the write and read speed. I'm going to let it run for a second so it populates both the write and read portions of this test. And now that it has done that, I'm going to click stop, and this is going to show me the read and write speed. So it breaks down, will it work with all of these different resolutions and codecs. This shows that it can work with all of those. That's a good sign. And then it also shows you, it breaks down the write and read speeds for those codecs if you were to use them. So this looks good. The SSD is actually performing pretty well. I'm very surprised with this. Apple's SSDs usually perform well anyway, but we're going to move on now to a different software that will perform some tests on our CPU and also the integrated graphics on the CPU, so it will check the GPU as well. There was one last thing I wanted to check, and that was the performance of the CPU and GPU using Geekbench 5. On your screen is the scores of both single core and multi-core performance of the refurbished MacBook Pro in blue, and in green is the average score of this exact same model MacBook Pro. And the score of the single core performance was a total of 1,214 for the refurbished MacBook Pro, and the average score was 1,143. For the multi-core performance, the average score of the MacBook Pro of this exact same model was 4,228. And our score came out to 4,375. So we outperformed the average score on both the single core and multi-core benchmark tests using Geekbench 5. But now we're going to look over at the GPU scores for both the Metal API and OpenCL API compute test that Geekbench provides. Transitioning over to the compute scores for this GPU in this refurbished MacBook Pro. Again, the refurbished score is in the blue and the green is the average score for this exact model of this MacBook Pro. For the metal score, we got a total of 10,463 as the score for the refurbished MacBook Pro. The average score was 9,221. So again, we outperformed the average score for the metal API. Now, if we take a look at the OpenCL API score for this MacBook Pro, the refurbished Mac scored a total of 8,813, with the average score coming in at 8,713. So not that much of a difference there, but again, the refurbished MacBook Pro outperformed the average score of this exact model MacBook Pro. Today's video, we talked about how I used Amazon Refurbished to save money on my purchase of a 2020 13-inch Intel 10th Gen MacBook Pro, the quality of both the packaging and the device, and then we ran some tests to see how it held up in terms of all of the internal hardware and did it meet the standards of what I would expect a new version of this model to put out in terms of tests. So here are my thoughts when buying Apple products that are refurbished. If you're gonna do it, it's a great way to save some money, but make sure to do your own research and check to see that wherever you're buying this Apple refurbished product is credible and reliable on the quality of refurbished products they are selling. Make sure to check before you buy because you don't want to be left holding the bag with a crappy Apple refurbished product. Thanks again though, guys, for watching, and I hope this video helped you learn a way to save some money on Apple products in 2021. And if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so with that red subscribe button down below the video, and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever videos are posted to the channel. That's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, until the next time, happy decoding.